Welcome to Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat, a transformative live stream TV show that brings wellness within everyone's reach. Each episode, featuring expert guests, delves into crucial topics like hormonal health, effective detoxification, and stress management through nervous system optimization. Gain practical insights into nutrition, supplementation, efficient workouts, and biohacking tools to enhance mental and physical health. So now, please welcome the host of Hack Your Health, Dr. Nat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat. I am your host, Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp. My aim for this show is to bring you interesting topics and guests. It is to give you tips, tools, and strategies so you can better your health. And the topic today is an interesting one. It is all about how to navigate EMF hazard in our digital world. So today with my guest, Laura Kissmann. Hi, Laura. How are you?
Hi, good. I'm well. How are you?
Good. We'll do a proper introduction, but what we're going to cover today is I want us to create awareness and make us think, because EMFs, we hear about it, but we don't see them, and it's kind of an abstract thing. So today I really want us to understand EMF and the impact that it has on our health. We're going to talk about how we can measure and detect them, and then we also want to leave you with strategies that you can implement in your life to try to mitigate those EMF as well. So Laura, I'm super excited for our conversation. So I've met Laura a few years ago, and we ended up having so much in common from, same schools way back in Kingston, Ontario. So I'm going to go over Laura's bio here, but Laura is a quantum holistic nutritionist. She runs Laura Kissmann's Wellness that involves coaching. She does it live or virtual. She tests home for electromagnetic pollution, and that's what we're going to talk about. And I like the fact that Laura says that she's definitely not a building biologist, but she is an EMF mitigator. So I've had her come to my house to look at electromagnetic field into our house. Laura's got a whole bunch of different qualification, and lately, and congratulations on that, she is now a brand new classical homeopath. So just adding to your arsenal of tools to help people. She's also a quantum coach, and has tons of tools to help her clients. So Laura, we have a lot of stuff to cover today, and like I was saying to the people watching, please don't, once we're done tonight, go, oh my God, we're all doomed, because this is not the purpose of the show. But the purpose is to make us think, because like I said, EMFs, we don't see them. We often don't even know what they do to our health, and it's everywhere. So it's about creating awareness, and the more we know, then the more we can, understand. So as I said, Laura, we have a lot of stuff to cover, but let's start with the basics. So what are EMF? And let's talk about the difference between ionizing, non-ionizing, natural versus non-native. And for that, let's bring a visual, because it can be a little bit complex. So let's look at that slide, Laura, and you can explain to us the different types.
Okay. It's funny because I think this is like the toughest question of all right at the beginning. So I actually have some notes I'm going to refer to help us get through this tough question. So electric EMF stands for electric and magnetic fields. Okay. And it's considered a form of radiation, and it's invisible, as we know, right? It's an invisible area of energy, and it's produced by electricity. Okay. So we can classify them as to natural and non-artificial, or non-natural, man-made. There's all different forms, but we can also call it ionizing and non-ionizing, and then we get into thermal and non-thermal. So that's where it gets more complex. But when we say, so I know when I write a blog, or I'm testing people, teaching quantum biology or testing a home, when I I use the term EMFs, I'm really trying to talk about the natural EMFs, but I really love this term non-native EMF. And when I write it, it's little n, two little n's, and then a big big M, and big F. So non-native EMFs. So natural EMFs, okay, are, I'm trying to see if there's any on this slide. Yeah, there is. So the sunlight, obviously, the sun is a natural EMF. They're ones that have been around in our environment for millions of years, whereas the unnatural ones, I just want you to think that those are the man-made artificial ones. They're really new in our environment, okay? And they're from modern technology. And unfortunately, the negative EMFs are causing kind of chaos in our biology. So we'll talk a little bit more about that tonight. The man-made EMFs are, so let's get back, we'll get back to that slide, the ionizing and the non-ionizing, okay? And ionizing, let me look at the slide because it's it's on the right side. You see the blue arrow. Those are more the high, what we call high frequency, very short wavelength. If you go to the bottom, you'll see there's like a wave along the screen, where it's very, very short, the shorter wavelengths. That's where you're seeing things like gamma rays, X-rays. Looking at you see the hand, that's the X-ray. I think that's meant to be nuclear energy at the top. So that's all forms of ionizing, really high frequency, dangerous, right? We know there's a harm with that. And what ionizing means is, I don't know if you can remember back to grade 8 chemistry, it's where it's the ability for this radiation to detach an electron from an atom. So just by definition of that, that's not good, right? We know that's going to be dangerous. We don't want to have too many X-rays. So the non-ionizing radiation, it's not high enough energy to detach an electron off of an atom. So we have forever just thought, well, it's safe. It's not strong enough, right? It doesn't have the energy that the horrible things that happened in World War II with Nagasaki and Hiroshima, right? That was nuclear, or atomic, right? So we just have always assumed that all this other stuff on the left side of the screen, the red arrow, is safe, but we're finding out more that it's not as safe, and so we want to minimize that, and that's really probably the biggest message tonight that you'll hear. But some more examples, because there's a few in those pictures. You see radar, I think there. You see a cell phone. I think that's a cell phone looking at a map. A TV and a microwave. I think it's meant to be a microwave tower on the left. A radio, and then a microwave oven. Those are all some non-ionizing. Computers, I'll throw in there, smart meters, cell phones, Bluetooth devices, things like MRIs, hair dryers, electric blankets, and metal detectors. That's another one. Airport screening are non-ionizing. And then your ionizing, let me see if there's any more I wanted to share with you. Okay, so ionizing, remember I said there's natural and non-natural. In the natural, we've got sunlight, which I mentioned, but there's also from the earth, from the magnetic field of the earth, and it's radiation coming off of the soil and rocks. And then there's cosmic radiation from space. And so those are all natural, but they're actually all ionizing. So there can be a danger if you spend too much time in the sun, right? Mm-hmm. And then on just the last little piece on that, for artificial sources, some of them are, so then we get into airports. Some of this, I think I just mentioned something at the airport, but some of those scanners are ionizing, the stuff we put our baggage. And I know myself, I actually always ask for a pat down, because they've changed. There's some newer ones, and they're meant to be a 5G type technology. So I would ask your listeners, if they're worried about this, just ask for a pat down. And if they ask you why, they often will ask you if you have a pacemaker. But you can just say, I'm sensitive. I'm electrosensitive.
Yeah. So go ahead, Laura.
Oh, just the last one was one that we don't think about. is for the ionizing is mammography, getting, so we don't want to do those too much, right? We don't want, and CT scanners, things like that. There's some medical things. Yes, it's important to get checked, but and x-rays, we just don't want to do them too much.
Yeah.
Don't make them
So if we were to recap that slide, ionizing, not good, non-ionizing, we thought they were safe. We are starting to see that they may not be safe, correct?
Exactly. And it's also, it's more of a latent,
Yes.
it can take 10 years of overdoing non-ionizing before you see it in effect. Whereas we know ionizing would be,
Yeah.
a minute
Yeah.
with an x-ray is too long, right?
Yeah. So I guess next step, and we can remove the visual for now, but could you highlight what you consider to be the most prevalent and concerning when it comes to EMF? Because now that we've covered the basic, what do you worry about when you evaluate, people's house and have a conversation with them?
Uh, well, I go through basically all the different fields, but one of them that you might not expect, which is an EMF, and I just want to clarify this. It's the one visible EMF. As I said, they were all invisible, but the one visible EMF is actually blue light. So I'll just share that Nathalie and I are both breaking our own rules tonight, where we have.
So talking about that, I'm going to put my glasses for a second. So because of the blue light at this time of night, Laura is wearing hers, and I feel like I should be wearing mine as well. But the whole point is that I talk about that in one of my books, that we want to follow our circadian rhythm, and at this time of night, before we go to bed in an hour or two, we should not be bombarding ourselves with light. But I'll let you continue on that, Laura.
So blue light is, I think, before this newest generation, we call fifth generation 5G technology. Blue light was probably the most dangerous of the EMFs, and people don't really realize that. And so, yeah, very important. I actually have, when I go to a home, I'd love to have a spectrometer. I don't have one yet. They're quite pricey. So that's something you could put up to a light, and you'd see how much blue. You could test all your lights. But what I do have is I'll just show it for fun. But it's a little light noise meter. Yeah, and so I can't really do it, but we'll be able to see. But it makes a noise, and it shows me. You can hear. Does this light? Does it make a noise that the body doesn't like, or is it very calming to the body? And it's really obvious when you test an LED light versus an incandescent, for example. Yeah, and incandescent is quite nice, and yeah. So first thing, blue light. That's most prevalent and concerning. And then I would go probably next to what we call radio frequency, RF. This is the wireless. So this is cell phones, cell towers, all these things. I have different meters for that. And then magnetic fields and electric fields. And then something called dirty electricity. So, but if you would like, I can give you a little more detail on each and break it down.
Yeah, please. Let's dig deeper.
Okay, so let's do RF to start, because that's really what most people think about, and when someone wants me to test their home, it's often they're curious because they live near a cell tower, and they're like, okay, test my home. Is it safe to live here, right? And so cell phones, just examples of RF. So cell phones, routers, really important. That's your Wi-Fi. That's, if people aren't familiar, that is the piece of equipment that produces the Wi-Fi signal in the home. Bluetooth, especially wireless speakers. I often like to use my meter to show people, wow, how high is that that you have sitting in your kitchen all the time, playing music all the time? Well, maybe you could put it a little farther away, and distance yourself. AirPods, I test. Baby monitors. Cell towers, it's tough to test that. I actually use an app that I will download on the spot in someone's home to just show them, okay, what does it actually show? And it's looking at the distance, and it'll show how many, if there's 3G, 4G, 5G. I haven't seen a 5G one yet, but and then I also test microwave ovens. That's all. All those are the non-ionizing, right? And then magnetic fields. If someone lives near a power line, that's really concerning. That's going to happen. Same thing for electric fields. And then just electrical appliances. We'll test. We don't have all the time to test. It depends how much time people have, but we'll look at all of those. And just like simple thing is your dishwasher's on. Well, do you have your cutting board right, there on the counter? Maybe you want to just, if it's always on at dinner time when you're cutting your vegetables for dinner, maybe you could move that, you could move your cutting board somewhere else. So you're just a little distancing from that field. So, and then dirty electricity is one that people may not have heard of. That has another term called EMI. What does it stand for is the question. Electromagnetic interference, I think is what it is. And basically, I have a little meter here I can show you. It's called a microsurge meter. Right here, you plug it in and into you plug it into the outlets. You'll see it's got the cord there, and you plug it into the outlets, and you'll be able to find there's a sort of a number will come up, and ideally you want it to be under 50. If you're electro-hypersensitive, you need it to be under 30. But a lot of homes are they really range for all different numbers. But anyway, what it is, it's an invisible. They're micro surges. And that's actually they consider it dangerous. It's RF, radio frequency, radiation. And some, like a lot of experts, I should say some, but in sort of this space, feel that it's one of the most biologically active. So we want to get that down, and it's actually quite easy to get it down. And it rides on, I'm just reading this because I want to get the wording right. It rides along a building's electrical system with the ability to contaminate an entire home, and even buildings and homes nearby. So that's something that I measure for. So those are the biggies.
Yeah. And then that leads me to the next question. What are some of the symptoms that people can experience? Because, there's things that, from not being able to sleep well, fatigue, headaches, brain fog, but those are symptoms that can be of so many other things. And then you mentioned the electrosensitivity, that some people are way more sensitive, and some people already know because they connected the dots, but some people are just still trying to figure out what is going on with them because of symptoms of fatigue and so forth, right? And just all of those. Do you mind elaborating on those symptoms and what you've seen?
Okay. Yeah, I've seen quite a bit. I'll just share that I was in a group. I still am in a group, a safe technology group. We created it. I was part of a group that created this when 5G was coming in, and we were all very concerned. I would say we're not as busy we kind of all went back to our jobs after COVID, and we've lost some momentum. We're trying to meet once a month with this particular group, but it was amazing to meet quite a number of these electro-hypersensitive people. We had one girl that would sit in her tent. Another girl was in a car. A lot of them can't live in a home. You can actually get to that point, and it's so sad, really. But one concept, before I give you some of the symptoms, and you've mentioned a bunch, so I'm glad you're so aware, Nathalie. Just a concept that to grasp is that electropollution, I'm going to read it. Electropollution clouds up electrical communication in the body. And this has been known to cause serious health issues ranging from diabetes to cancer. And if I can go back to your first question with what is natural EMFs and non-natural EMFs, the way I've been explaining it to people to me, this is like the simplest way, is that we have all this communication going on in our body, and we actually get a lot of messages from those natural EMFs from the sun. You mentioned circadian biology, right? There's just ongoing, second to second, all day long, information coming at us, and it comes from the ground when we earth and we ground, and a lot of that is driving everything in our body, all the biochemistry, let's say, the biophysics and the biochemistry. And now you enter in all these non-native EMFs that are crazy frequencies and power densities, and I just feel like it's so I don't know I was in the military, you know that. I was in
Yeah,
telecommunications, and we learned all about jamming. And I guess for me, maybe that's why this concept seems so simple to me. But it's like all that non-native stuff, all this chaotic, and it's different. I mean, so many different signals are all coming in at different times and pulsing, and it's jamming our communication that we need. And
that's a very good way to explain it. And I was just reading an article just this morning, and I pulled it out because I think it's important. Research is showing that harmful biological effect of radio frequency on human and the environment, and can increase the risk of cancer, neurological damage, development of the brain, dementia. There's a lot of neurological diseases, affecting the blood-brain barrier, the communication, and so forth. So it's just, there's a lot out there, but we don't hear about it too much. So 5G increases permeability of the blood-brain barrier. Neurogenesis causes neural DNA damage, anxiety also, and dementia. Like these are like recent studies that have been done. Unfortunately, it's not talked about much, and I'm sure we're going to discuss that a little bit further. But it's having this awareness that it can affect our biology.
I saw an article on that as well, and I was super excited to see that come out because there were 10 studies done in the last 2 years since 5G has been rolled out, and I mean, excited, but sad too. But it's those studies and the awareness that will
Yeah,
bring change, right? Okay, so some of the symptoms I think you mentioned already. I'll just
yeah,
call it some symptoms, and then I'll break down some more harmful things. So some initial symptoms could be, I don't know if you said insomnia, but
yeah,
insomnia, fatigue is a really common one. Headaches, very common. And another one, I don't know if you've ever felt it, but I have, is brain fog. Um, and you can get brain fog from bloating in your stomach. So it can be so confusing, what causes brain fog. But there are people that the minute they get in whatever, it could be Bluetooth for one person, it could be it could be a cell phone radiation, it could be dirty electricity for another. Then
mhm,
yeah, they'll experience brain fog. They just can't find words, and of course it could be menopause. Who knows? um, but memory problems, yeah, really is a big piece. Anxiety, depression, again, sort of neurological, neuropathy kind of going along with that, where we can't, we're having either numbness and tingling or not
mhm.
feeling, our extremities. Heart palpitations. So people, again, kind of goes along with the anxiety because usually one leads to the other. And then another really common one is this ringing, and it can be just one ear.
Yeah.
And it's called tinnitus or
Mhm.
tinnitus. Very common, and very common with electrohypersensitive people. And then dizziness, it could be just a short-term thing. But the more longer-term harmful um, effects of electromagnetic radiation would be obviously cancer. We've there's rat studies, there's mice studies, and then obviously looking at meta-analysis of what's gone on with humans, and definitely brain tumors. So the most famous one of all, the GBM, we call it glioblastoma,
Yeah.
multiform. And then then they're connecting. I'm not saying all breast cancers, but wearing a bra or whatever, sports bra, and putting your cell phone on the breast. And the same thing with men, are putting their cell phone in the pockets, and it's very close to their reproductive organs. So more linking, I think, testicular cancer. And then the newest one and most concerning is because we're seeing it a lot more in our youth. Like I'm saying youth, like teenage,
Mhm.
20, is colorectal, which again is where are they putting that's the question, where are they putting their cell phones? So, but infertility, another one, very, very common. And there are studies really to back that one up. They've looked at sperm every which way. So definitely on the male side, they can see that. Um, and then just low thyroid, like, you know, um, hypothyroid, we're definitely linking lower, so sleep issues, lower melatonin, and that, we can, and sort of, we can see that with cortisol, it affecting cortisol, all the different EMFs like blue light included. And then testosterone production, which men are really, really want to hang on to. And it is really interesting to look at our youth today. We're seeing a rise in male pattern baldness with young men. We're seeing myopia. That's another one with definitely blue light. There's countries like, don't quote me because I don't know if it's Japan or Korea. I think it's Korea because my husband was recently there. They're all in glasses. That young generation and they're all getting, because they're like this all the time. And it's partly training your eye to only see things up close, but it's also, you can't see far away. But they actually think it's more the damage to the photoreceptors in the eye from the blue light. So, and the only last one on this, there's so much you can look at. Heart disease, people that have worn, are people getting arrhythmias from wearing their cell phone in like a suit, a jacket. We're starting to look at that. But another concerning one is the whole spectrum of autism and the rise in autism, and maybe starting to link there. But
that brings me to the next question: who's at risk? And I know we've discussed that with kids and children and so forth. So just elaborate briefly on who is more at, we're all at risk really, but who is more at risk?
Yeah, so most concerning, like if I was going to prioritize, I would say fetuses in a mom, pregnant mom's belly. You just can't be too careful of having, having cell phones around. They're in China, I think they have a law, you have to wear a belly band. I've not, I've heard this. I haven't gone to China and seen myself. But yeah, you can't be too careful. That belly wants infrared. It wants to be out in the sun and getting natural infrared. So yeah, and then children, of course, right? And women. And where I would put all three of those together is that they all have thinner skulls. So the actual bone is thinner, so the radiation can get through, and they have smaller heads, women included, and so the radiation's got shorter distance to get closer to the middle of the brain, and then that's where some of those cancers concerns. I would say the most studies have been with looking at brain cancer specifically, and also children and fetuses obviously are way more hydrated. As you get older, you get more dehydrated, and that hydration has a factor in how that radiation can get through. And another thing is just young people. I think it's men until 28 and women until 25. You, just being a chiropractor, all about this way more than I ever will. The whole myelination of the nerves, and then being unmyelinated, that their nerves are more at risk. So their central nervous system is more at risk. So that top of the list. Then I would add to that people with any kind of limbic or vagal nerve dysfunction or inflammation. And so those people are people that maybe have been diagnosed with Lyme or mold, issues with mold toxicity. And even we're finding out, apparently there's a link with post-COVID, because they've got issues with the vagal nerve and limbic system. And then anybody that that's hypersensitive. And I've been in that category. I'm thankfully much better now, but people that have sensitivities, a ton of sensitivities to food or chemicals. They can't be around perfume or smoke or things like that. So they have that inflammation going on. So they're going to be more likely to be sensitive to electromagnetic radiation. And then someone, again, and you've dealt with a lot more than I have, is people with concussions and traumatic brain injuries.
Yeah.
So back to what you said earlier about the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah.
A concussion will, as you know, open the blood-brain barrier, but also non-negative EMFs can open the blood-brain barrier. So one of the first things I tell someone with a concussion is, okay, turn off your Wi-Fi at night. Make sure you're getting that restful time. If you can get it off all the time, that would be wonderful while you're, in that intense healing phase. So, and then just the elderly and the sick, they've got depressed immune systems. And also just there's a term called redox. I won't get into the details of that, but they would have lowered redox. They're getting at the end stage of their life, and that there's something called redox that goes down as you get older, and just
has an impact. Laura, we're going to take a quick pause, and when we come back, let's talk about more in detail, how we can test and then solutions, because we've talked a lot about what EMFs are, the symptoms, but I really want to give people actionable items. So we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
In today's world, the flood of health information feels endless. But amidst the noise, two experts with over 50 years of combined clinical experience come together to help you with Smart Cuts, biohack your health span, cutting-edge protocols for greater energy and performance. Dr. Paul Sly, a beacon for athletes, weekend warriors, and those seeking to elevate their potential. And Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp, renowned for empowering individuals in their health journeys. Together, they've produced the book, Smart Cuts, Biohack Your Health Span, a protocol-based treasure trove packed with actionable steps. Journey through 5 transformative sections. Dive into sleep, hydration, movement, brain health, and even the secrets of longevity. Guided by their expert hands, unleash the best version of yourself. With over half a century of clinical wisdom and innovative protocols, reclaim your health and redefine your limits. Are you ready to embark on this transformative journey? Smart Cuts, available now.
And we are back with Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp and Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat. We are talking with our guest today, Laura Kissmann, about how to navigate EMFs and in our digital world. And let's face it, we're bombarded by it. So Laura, we explained what they were, we explained symptoms, and I think we've made people aware. Now, how can one go about measuring what's going on in our homes? I know you showed, some of the meters, but let's talk about what's available to people to start measuring their EMF.
Okay. Well, first, I got to put a plug in for getting it professionally done. If you have a building biologist in your city, they're not that common. That's the frustrating part, because it takes a lot to train to be one. I would love to be one. It's on the list of, things before I die I'd like to do, but it hasn't happened yet. So, try and get a professional if that's the best. They know more than I do. I don't even know what I don't know. I do know a lot that I don't know that they know, but definitely if you can get a building biologist. And to find one, just go on the BBI, Building Biology Institute, and you should be able to find one in your area. But otherwise, an EMF mitigator like myself, someone who's taken some courses. And this really came to me by accident. I'm a holistic nutritionist in my background, and I just started to link this, that, if they're not getting well, having the perfect diet, what else could there be, right? And so I started testing their homes. I had like 1 or 2 meters, and then it became 3 meters and 4 meters, and of course looking at my own health as well. So there's a number of different meters. I'll just show a few, but so from the RF perspective, I just happen to have the Safe and Sound Pro 2. Absolutely love it. The reason I actually got this meter was because I got asked, or I volunteered to be part of a global study where we test different towns. We do different projects, and so it's Dr. Magda Havas's project, and this was the meter that she prefers. Ironically, it's actually Canadian, and it comes out of Guelph, Safe Living Technologies. And what I love about it is you can actually hear, the sound. You can put on full volume, and when you're with a client and you're trying to show them, okay, I really think you need to move this router farther away from your computer. When you put that noise on, they go, oh my God, that's what my cells feel or hear. Yeah. And it's so some of the sounds are very disturbing and jarring. So that's an RF meter. Okay. Then, it's actually on by accident here. I'll turn it off. I use 1 meter for electric and magnetic fields, and this one comes from Germany. It's a gigahertz. I highly recommend this one. It's yeah, both of these are really good, highly esteemed. And then I use, for the dirty electricity, I already showed you, I use the microsurge meter. And then it's kind of fun because it's a little bit of play, but if we do get a number that we're not happy with, then I've got a number of these, what they're called Stetzerizers, Stetzerizers, that you would plug in the wall and just see, can I bring it down? Is it on this circuit? And you play around and you're trying to figure out also, is the source of it coming from the power lines outside the house, coming in the house, or is the source of it in the house? Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I've had it's been very enlightening playing around with these and then unplugging things. And then, yeah, I showed you the light meter. Let me think of, what am I missing here? Yeah, that would be that. And then, I'll show you my favorite toy, which I'm wearing right now, which it's actually got it's also based on the Safe and Sound Pro, this technology, very, very similar, okay, as this, but it's just a little micro one. So it's not giving me digitally what the radiation is, but I can program it to vibrate at a certain level. So I usually program it to know when I'm in 100,000 microwatts per square meter, which is an extreme value. And but also at any time I can press it. I don't know if it'll show through the screen. Let me see here. Okay. Can you? Sorry, it'll only show for a second. Do you see a flashing light?
Yes.
Okay, so okay, so it was green for a second, then it went. It's probably because I'm getting closer to the computer. But I'm actually. See, it's gone green here. So I've got my house and my office to a point where it's at a lower level, which is nice. So the other thing is, I always, sounds really simple, but if anybody's trying to do this and learn this, I always have my little handy. It's like my legend, and it shows me what the guidelines for the building biology. So what is severe? What is safe? What is extreme? What is slight? So I'm not really too worried about. So that's super helpful.
So let's talk about solutions now. So I know, we could probably talk for 2 hours with the amount of information, but
already right at your home.
We might have to do a part 2, but basically I know, you talk about the 3D system from to professional to prioritize downtime, duration, and distance. So let's talk about that, and then let's give people practical solutions.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking of, okay. Okay, so 3D, it's Nick Pinot. He's Canadian from Montreal. Just love Nick. He's brought so much awareness to all of this whole subject. Great book he's written called The Non-Tinfoil Guide to EMFs. Probably have it here. And really, for a basic person wanting to learn, I think it's one of the best books, actually. But anyway, so he and someone called Brian Hoyer, who's also a holistic nutritionist like I am, who switched and went full-time into testing homes, and now he has his own beautiful company that sells shielding products. They taught me my course, and they continue to teach me. I have once a month training with them, and I think it's their system, maybe it's from someone else, but they really focus on it and teach everybody the 3D system, which is the 3D stand for, like you said, downtime, duration, and distance. So downtime is really just how can you look at your life and get downtime from your cell phone, for example, or your router. The router is simple. Turn it off at night. That's an easy one, right? The cell phone is, when you go on, like when you go to the store, take a break from it. Maybe I know we all do that. I know you're looking for your wallet and you're looking for your cell phone when you leave the house. But try to take breaks. Go, maybe when you're walking to the park, leave your phone at home. You don't have to have a picture of everything, which I know I'm very guilty of. So during sleep is a big one. Sleep is the most important. It's also when I test homes, it's the most important room to get right, because that's where we rest and rejuvenate. And so, if you can, leave your cell phone out of the room. If it has to be in the room, airplane mode, try and get another type of, I just use I have just a basic old, I've got it here to show you, but just a Timex watch. That's what I used to wake up with. I don't use my cell phone. So, And so, yeah, another one is during meals. We have a rule at our house, no cell phones at the table.
Yeah.
And guess what? I have my handy watch, so nobody can cheat because my arm starts vibrating at the dinner table otherwise. Um, and just, yeah, airplane mode. Really try to get into that parasympathetic mode more often than the sympathetic, because the sympathetic, the stress, the fight or flight, we get that from non-native EMFs. It's raising our cortisol. So when people talk about doing digital detoxes, it's a wonderful idea really to think about and practice. So duration, that means just less time on the devices. So if you're going to make a cell phone call, try and make it shorter, just a quick call. See if you could maybe text, or on, even better, send it on, if you're in Messenger, on your computer, or on Instagram on your computer, instead of doing everything on the phone. I read this summer that men are more guilty than women. They're on their phones like 18 hours a day, which is interesting. I'm not sure why, but yeah. Okay, and then the last one, I'm just going to get, because I had an idea for you. Distance is just get the phone farther away. So speakerphone versus at the ear. Really, really try never to ever use that. And please, if you ever see a child or a baby, remember what I told you about distance. Just please try to teach them parents, especially if you're grandparents, Another way you can get farther away is wearing wired earphones. And Nathalie has hers.
I can show mine. So these are tubes earphones. So instead of you can see here, but it's a tube. So I can't get phone calls with them, but if I'm listening to music or things, and the awareness of the wireless pods, I'm sure you've tested them, and the frequency is really high. It's right beside our brain. So I have conversation all the time with patients that come in with it. And then, as you mentioned, for us ladies, wearing our phone, like some put them on their breast or in their front pocket or back pocket, and same thing for the gentleman. So the distance aspect is key with that, right?
I recently I've been using these for years and years, and I've recently got a new pair that actually the wire is shielded, because apparently they're perfect, because there is some resonance that comes up through the wire. And as you said, like there's these ferrite beads, and then it changes this into the sound. It's sound, and it's just air. The signal goes to air. But you can actually take a call. Like you can actually talk on the phone with them, as long as your phone's, of course, not on airplane mode, right? Yeah. So listening to podcasts. If you're like me, I'm a podcast junkie. Download the podcast, and that way you can listen if you have to. Like I will cook meals, and if there's other people in the room, I don't want to disturb them. I'll put these on, or I vacuum often with these. Listening to a podcast.
Yeah. So if we kind of recap our advice here, so get an expert to test if you can. Consider purchasing meters. I know myself, I'd purchased one, and you came to my house because I needed help to try to figure out how it worked. Assess where your worst offenders are. So you've mentioned a router. This is something that you can even put in a cage, to decrease it and turn it off at night, and the smart meters as well. So do you want to talk a little bit more about the smart meters?
Yeah. And if you want, I can tell some case studies. Would that help? Because I have
shortly, because we have about 15 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we're giving people action items. So yes.
Okay, I was thinking that might bring it to life a bit, but so router, you definitely want to get farther away. You can do a router cover, but just know that the router cover will diminish how far the signal will go. So I have one. We had to actually take it off because the signal wasn't enough for our kids' bedrooms. So that was interesting. But my dad, his is in his living room. So it's perfect. We put his on, and it's cut the radiation dramatically for him. So yeah, super handy. Smart meter covers, they're tricky. I would get someone involved to test, because just in my training, even this last week, the problem with putting the cover on the out, because they're outside of our houses, right? And you put the cover on. What we don't realize about those is 80%, I think, the radiation is actually going outwards. And so if you cover the outside, you're forcing that radiation in the house. So the best time to use a router cover would be if you have a neighbor is facing, and they don't care, and it's facing your house and you're electrohypersensitive, you might have to ask that neighbor to use a cover. And better yet would be putting tinfoil, sounds funny, but tinfoil on the wall, inside wall, in case if that's a bedroom, for example.
And another one that we talked about is wire computer. And this is something that even my plug for my laptop, I didn't have 3 prongs. It was not grounded properly, so for sure. And then trying to be wired. So like, for instance, right now I am fully wired with the internet, just to make sure that everything is, is diminished with the wireless frequencies, right?
Oh yeah, that is such a great fix. Is to try and hardwire as many of your devices as you can. My PC here is hardwired. But the thing, just a note, Nathalie, with laptops to mention to people, if they do that, don't forget that you have to actually go into your laptop and put your laptop in airplane mode, because otherwise, it's hooked to the Wi-Fi, but it's still radiating, but it will stop that radiation. And yeah, I often see 10,000, 11,000 microwatts per square meter from a laptop. Not as, like, just in terms to give people a reference, a router is like 800,000. It's horrific. So to me, priority in the house, the very first thing I look at is, okay, like when I want to know where the router is, because that it's just such a high power density. For some people, it's the smart meter, which is not really a high power density, but it's this very unusual pulsing every 30 seconds, 60 seconds that has made some people electrohypersensitive. Those are 2 really big ones.
Yeah, and there's timers that you can put on your router to say, okay, we're not turning it on from 10 to 6. They're a bit tricky, I have to say. We've had some challenges with ours, but it's well worth the the complexity of it. And then you mentioned that earlier too, using airplane mode as much as possible. Even for sleep, I always say no electronics in the bedroom, no TV. It's easy to bring the laptop. It's easy to bring the iPad. And if you do, then, we want to wear the red light to really get dark at night. And again, just even for your alarm clock, I leave my cell phone in the bathroom, which is way further. Some people, like, at some point, I know I bought an old clock, just to go back to basic, to not have too much into our homes. And then I know one thing that you've told me as well, that you've suggested to some of your clients, is to turn the circuit breaker off your bedroom altogether. And I know there's a few practitioners that have mentioned that as well.
And you can get a kill switch to do that, to make it even easier, so that you're not running down every night and turning it off. Which isn't actually great for your circuit breaker. And that's something you need an electrician to usually, I would highly advise you get an electrician to actually put that in, or a building biologist if they're trained to do it. I'm not. I'll just be able to educate people. One thing, Nathalie, I see you with your hand, and me too. We have both wear Oura rings.
Yes.
I was going to just say that if people do sleep with a cell phone, in the room, all these different pulsating, you might actually see a difference in some of your, some of the readings, specifically probably the HRV. You may see an improvement in the HRV. I can't say for sure it would affect. I think it's very individual whether or not somebody sleeping with the Wi-Fi, it would affect their deep sleep or their REM sleep. But I just wanted to say, remember to take your Oura ring and put the Bluetooth off before you put it.
Exactly. Especially the newer one, I find that with the pulse oximeter, and we want to minimize it on us as well. So I know, Laura, when you came to our house, like, we went from one room to the other. You had me sleep on my bed. We tested a few things. One of the things that I ended up doing is pushing my bed away from the wall, because going closer to the wall, we were reading more frequency. We even went in the sauna to check the
That's great.
electromagnetic field as well. So, and again, I'm not, trying to plug Laura's services to do that, but depending where you live, you may not have access to a person like this. But it was truly fascinating to see, and we're constantly bettering ourselves. And I was just in New York City in February to functional medicine conference, and one of the speaker had a whole presentation on house pollution, and the carpets and the air, and the emanation of fire retardant material and all of this. So we have to remember that our home is supposed to be our sanctuary, and we want to make it as healthy as possible. So water quality, air quality, but then EMF. And I started the show saying we don't see them, so we're not thinking about it. And I love technology as much as the next person, but to what cost? And I think we have to be aware that some research are done, but there's not enough. And I read on an article the other day that made me think, I used to say sitting is the new smoking, but I think 5G is the cigarette of the 21st century. And I think I've never heard it before. And I'm like, wow, I can really think, because we have ideas already of the effect of 4Gs on the body. There's research, of the fact that it is classed a certain way and carcinogenic and so forth. But 5Gs, we don't have, the data, and yet we're putting towers everywhere, and the towers have to be closer together because it doesn't penetrate into walls to get into, the homes and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that we're doing without having the proper information, unfortunately. And let's face it, to get politics here, but it is not the telecommunication companies that are going to want to do the study to show that their product is harmful. So as a customer or consumer, we have to be very aware of this. So we've given you some tools and strategies. Like I said at the beginning, I didn't want to overwhelm people, but I think the whole purpose of the show tonight is to make you think. Now, Laura, we could talk about this, like I said, for probably another hour. But one thing that I want to bring to our awareness is that there are devices called modulators. Some are blockers, some are harmonizer. And I think we're both in the train of thoughts that we don't know yet how well those are working. So the modulators are exactly that. They will modulate the frequency around. Some are going to block, and there's Faraday cage that you can purchase. Those are truly blockers. And then the harmonizer, those are the ones that you can put on your laptop or your cell phone. I'm reading about it. It sounds like some of them are promising, but I wouldn't hang my hat on that fact of say, oh, I can do whatever I want. I'm going to take a call on my cell because I've got this, because I think it truly is a sense of, probably false security. I myself have a case for my phone. I have a case for my backpack, where I carry my phone. I do have for my laptop, for when I put it on my lap, to have a little there. I am using my tube, so I'm trying to do as much as I can, but it won't replace the fact, like you said, that we need to decrease the time that we're spending with those, and decreasing the distance. That's playing it safe, right?
Can I give you one tip that I learned partly in the research building up to this is so phone cases, I have one as well, that they can be misused so easily. If you put them to your ear, again, the radiation could be coming out one end. They can be turned the wrong way. If you have the camera, if there's a little hole for the camera, the radiation's coming through that. So I haven't used mine because it didn't test well, even though it came from a really reputable company. What I would recommend is the pouch. Shield Your Body is probably the best one. And yeah, it's so simple. And you can even put that in your purse instead of having to get a specific bag.
Yeah.
I would look at that, because that is the one. It's not a Faraday cage. It's actually allows the radiation to come off of the body outwards, but it will stop it going on your body. And I think that's spend your money on the shielding first. But when you've got that down, where you've educated yourself, you know how to do airplane mode, you do the 3D system, but shield whenever that cell phone has to be on your body, shield it so it's not irradiating your hip, let's say, if it's on a belt. And then these harmonizers, there is some really interesting new research, and we're seeing live blood look better, HRV, thermography. We're seeing some interesting research, but we don't know the long term. And what if something slightly breaks in it, and then you're thinking, oh, I'm protected and I'm just using these devices all the time. That's where I worry a bit.
So Shield Your Body is one company that has those, and then people can do some research online. And I think you've mentioned Nick Pineau, his book. Once you start reading in that field, and there was the EMF summit that just finished last weekend.
So fabulous. It was so good. I watched almost every lecture. It was fantastic.
So you can educate yourself. I know I've done one of those summits a couple of years ago, and it's like, whoa, it can be overwhelming. But let's hope that we didn't overwhelm people, but make them aware, and they're gonna think twice before putting their cell phone on themselves, and ask themselves what else could they do to limit their time. So Laura, where can people find your website? I know you give courses as well on different things, so where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at laurakissmannwellness.com, and Kissmann is with 2 N's, as you can see behind me here. And I'm also on I could be more active on Instagram, but that's probably where I post the most. Also Facebook, but more on Instagram. And I'm shortly going to have a podcast coming out called Quantum Healthy. And EMF will not every episode will be EMFs. It'll be all about sunlight and blue light, and just optimizing our quantum biology. But Quantum Healthy is what it's going to be called. And just so for people, that's another resource. There are some wonderful podcasts. Smarter Tech, I would recommend. There's one I just learned today, EMF Remedy, and Healthier Tech is another pod. So there's 3 great ones that if people want to start to learn more. Yeah. And then another book is EMF'd. I know you know about it, Dr. Mercola's. And then just a plug for you, your first book, the chapter on EMFs is excellent, Nathalie.
Thank you. Yeah, 2018, but some basics are still current, and now that we've added 5G, it's an extra layer. So thank you so much for your time, Laura. There's just always so much to learn, and how much we can do to make our homes more safe and our environment. And we didn't talk about electric cars and so forth, but like I said, we could probably do another show on that. So thank you so much for your time.
You are so welcome, and thank you for this opportunity. I really, really appreciate it.
Awesome. So this was Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp, Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat. I hope we got you thinking, and that you are going to change maybe 1 or 2 behaviors, because now you have the awareness, and this is what it's all about. To better our health is to integrate changes slowly, because if we integrate too many changes, we don't stick with the habit. So we want to slowly integrate those changes. So until next week, stay well, and we will see you for the next show next week.
Welcome to Dr. Nathalie's 7-Day Hack Your Health Challenge. Transform your fitness level with 7 quick, do them from anywhere workouts. Look and feel great. Nutrition. Master the art of optimizing your diet and maximizing nutrient intake with daily nutrition challenges. Biohacking, unlock exclusive content to tap into your body's innate wisdom. Take on challenges to optimize your mindset and physiology. Ready to transform your health? Visit www.drnat.life to join Dr. Nathalie's 7-day Hack Your Health Challenge. Your journey begins now.
This has been Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat. Tune in each week and uncover simple yet powerful strategies and actionable steps to elevate your health and wellness.